My friends, today I'll be taking on a topic not yet tackled by YouTube. That's right, I'm taking on the topic of video games. And I will be taking on one of the toughest video games out there, Dark Souls for the Nintendo Switch. Look, there it is now. Let's do this. Son of a gun! Come on. Come on! Come on! Oh, come on, you son of a... Play! Hey kids, let's talk about being cool. You know what's cool? Skateboards? If I wanted a four-wheel drive to the Dairy Queen, I would have my mom take me in her sweet Jeep. Sunglasses? Please, they don't fit over my glasses. So it makes me feel excluded from this hip new trend you're putting on. No, what's really cool can be summarized in one word. Beautiful.
Beautiful? Well, yeah, that works.
Viewtiful Joe is one of my favorite games ever, and I played a lot of games. What? You don't know who Viewtiful Joe is? What are you? Do you live in reality and you work at a 9-to-5 cubicle with 2.5 kids in a 2-story suburban white picket fence house, divorcing once, depping your early 30s with some bull honky university degree? Is that who you are? Huh? Okay, so obviously Joe isn't a Super Mario brother. So I'll give you a little history on him. The man behind Joe is Hideki Kamiya, who applied for places like Sega and Namco, but he ultimately ended up at Capcom, where he became a planner for a little game called Resident Evil.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
And that led him to become the director on the game's sequel,
Resident Evil 2.
Capcom wanted to make this a more commercial success. So, what they did is Kamiya gave it a little more of a Hollywood feel. And it became a huge success, even beating out some Hollywood movie weekend revenues. Except for Titanic. Come on, citizens of January 1998. Titanic has been out for 5 weeks now. Go see another movie. Go see Good Will Hunting. It's a better movie anyways. Yeah. I said it. After the success of Resident Evil 2, series producer Shinji Mikami wanted Hideki Kamiya to create a new installment for the Resident Evil franchise, but eventually that project took a life of its own and became Devil May Cry, which was loosely based off the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri.
Mamma mia!
Which is also the name of Devil May Cry's protagonist, Dante. This game was built around combat and movement of the main character and had a ranking system for the combos that you pulled off. And then after Devil May Cry, Atsushi Inaba, the producer, reunited with Kamiya, and they created a new staff-focused game that was built to test the skills of the people at Capcom at the time. And they had a 12-month period in order to create this game. And working with cool, stylish characters before, like Claire Redfield, Leon Kennedy, and Dante. About 21 months later, to continue this hip, cool new trend, Kamiya created Viewtiful Joe.
Lights, camera, beautiful! Ordinary dude Joe is sucked into an action movie and transformed into a super cool celluloid hero. Welcome to the way out world of Viewtiful Joe!
Inaba has stated that the influences for Viewtiful Joe has come from American comic books and tokusatsu, which means special filming in Japanese. This is a very specific subset of Japanese media that uses traditional special effects. Some examples of this include the kaiju movies, kaiju meaning strange creatures, that started in 1954 with Godzilla, and other examples include Mothra or Gamera. Another example of that are the superhero dramas that came from the 1957 Supergiant cereal. Some popular characters that came out of that were Ultraman and Command Rider. Command Rider in particular had a very specific catchphrase called Henshin. And Henshin meant transformation in Japanese. And Viewtiful Joe has a very Americanized version of it called Henshin a go-go, baby, and strikes a pose in a very Sentai way. Even the gameplay reflects comic books and movies being on a 2D plane rather than a 3D environment, such as many popular games were doing at the time, such as Super Mario Sunshine and Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. So what's Viewtiful Joe about? Well, it starts off on a pretty standard movie date starring the greatest superhero of that world, Captain Blue. And our two main characters, Joe and Sylvia, are going to see the movie. Joe is trying to find all the fine subtext and subtle details in the movie. Meanwhile, Sylvia just wants to make out during the movie. By the way, ladies, if we're going to see a movie together and you want to share popcorn and cuddle and make out, please, buy your own popcorn, bring warmer clothes, and for the love of G's, please, pay attention to the movie. I want to have a civil discussion about it afterwards. Suddenly, a giant robot baddie bursts through the screen and grabs Sylvia, and he rants about taking over the world. Six Machine tries to interfere, but he gets punched right through the screen and into the movie theater. So, Six Machine picks up Joe and marches him right into Movie Land, where he's trained by Captain Blue to become the world's next superhero. This blew my mind as a 10-year-old kid, because it fulfilled all the desires I had when I was just a wee lad reading about Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. I was obsessed with those fantastical worlds and wanted to go on adventures just like them. Plus, putting giant robots and superheroes in the same universe? Genius idea. Going to the movie theater in itself was a major event when you were a kid, because when you're a kid, every movie you see is the best movie ever, especially when it's on a giant screen and you're shoving down popcorn and candy down your gullet. And afterwards, you get to talk about how cool the action scenes are. Then you get to recreate them in your backyard. Then you get your plastic lightsabers taken away because apparently you can't hit your brother that hard with them. So getting sucked into that movie and recreating all the action scenes where you're the hero with all the magic and adventure, that's a slice of kick-ass right there. The gameplay of Viewtiful Joe could have been a simple beat-em-up with a Hollywood backdrop, but they take it one step further with the VFX gauge. Now, the VFX gauge is something that allows you to go in slow motion, giving you slower and more deliberate attacks to your enemies, Mach speed so you can kick and punch in rapid succession, and it allows you to zoom in and out, giving you a whole new set of moves and a whole new way to kick ass. What I like about these moves is that they have a very deliberate place on the GameCube controller. So for the GameCube controller, it's sort of like a remote control. So if you want to rewind or do slow motion, you hit the left side, the L button to slow it down. If you want to do faster Mach speed punches and kicks, you hit the R button, which is like your fast forward on your remote control. And if you want to gauge the intensity of the scene, you can press up and down on the C stick, sort of like the volume on your remote control, and you get a whole new set of moves and a whole new way to feel better about yourself, because violence is the answer. Shout out to Matthew Matosas for making a 3.5-hour video on Viewtiful Joe, which is sort of the inspiration for this. I highly recommend it. It has a lot of great gameplay in there and a lot of trivia. Trivia to fill up 3.5 hours. I can't do that. What was the last time I did something for 3.5 hours? Not do a YouTube video. As you progress throughout the game, you go through different hordes of robot grunts and you punch the guts out. I mean, punch the electric components out. Wink. But the highlight for me, of course, is the bosses. You only get a small confrontation before you fight them, but these small interactions tell a lot about these characters. My favorite are the first 3 bosses because they represent different eras in cinema, such as the monster movie, like Dracula, the kaiju movies, like Godzilla, and there's even a new Hollywood nod to Jaws from the 70s, in Grand Bruce, who is actually nicknamed after the on-set shark name from that same movie, Jaws. And, of course, Joe himself is a very likable character. He's cocky, he's dim-witted, but ultimately he's a good person. And that might not be the most original character type, but it gets the point across that anyone can be a hero. If you have the chance to pick up this game, I highly recommend it. I think Alistair said it best in the second Viewtiful Joe game when he said,
I'm not about to introduce myself. You want to know who I am? Go to your nearest discount store and get a copy of Viewtiful Joe. Go!
This game also gave me my fourth wall sense of humor way before I knew what a Deadpool was. This includes characters reading directly from a script and making multiple references to other movies and video games.
So what's with the feed watch on your arm, man? What, you think you're some kind of Mega Man or something?
Spoiler alert for a 20-year-old game, don't say I didn't warn you. My favorite part of the game is when Joe stands up to his former role model and tells him what a true hero does.
Captain, King Blue, you used to be cool. Now, you're nothing but a loser. I'm gonna show you what it means to be a true hero.
Because even though the story and legacy that Joe perceived isn't as truthful and as glamorous as he imagined it would be, he took the right lessons from Captain Blue and applied them to what it meant to be a true hero. You see, history isn't as black and white as some other history books or people will lead you to believe. But does that mean we make the same mistakes as the people who led before us? No. We take those best virtues and apply them to ourselves moving forward, and we do the best we can in that way. Joe defeats Captain Blue, saves Sylvia, and they go boldly into the sea. Though Kamiya has moved on to other projects, his love for Viewtiful Joe still comes up in interviews and such, and he's talked about remastering the old games, or possibly porting the old games onto a modern console like the Nintendo Switch. I wasn't the coolest kid growing up, but I knew what cool was. And it wasn't just superheroes and slow motion and well-designed video games. It was being true to yourself and sticking to your morals. And that is what a true hero does. Henshin a go-go, baby!